Hey guys, how's it going? This is DJ Cade back once again like a Renegade Master for the third part in this video series. And guys, it is finally time. We are going to take on the Jungle Cup. Without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into my teams and right into the first battle. You guys saw my last videos. Let's just get right into it. So one thing I'd like to point out at the very beginning of this is that after my practice matches against Ednog and Deefy250, I decided that I was actually going to drop Wigglytuff. I made the decision to change my lineup the day before the tournament, and even though I had not had practice with this lineup, I decided to drop Wigglytuff, in this case for Beedrill. I did some simulations with Beedrill and I really liked a lot of his matchups against various Pokemon, especially things like Venomoth and Venusaur and Vespiquen, and he even manages to do pretty well simply because of his speed against things like Lantern. And I decided that Wigglytuff wasn't really working for me, it wasn't really pulling the leads like I wanted it to, and I decided that Beedrill would be a lot better for my team in a lot of situations, have a lot more coverage, and that's what I decided to go with. So I changed up my lineup at the last second to include Beedrill, and in case you guys were wondering, I do not have second charge moves on either my Vigoroth or my Lantern, but I do have charge moves on everything else as far as the second charge move. So as you can see here, our first battle is going to be up against Angel Griffin, which was somebody I battled in the Kingdom Cup, and I'll just be straight up front with you guys. She's actually fairly young. I would be surprised if she was like 10 or 12, 11 or 12 years old. There were actually two really young kids that I battled in this tournament. And the thing with Angel Griffin, I talked to her a little bit, and she kind of said, well, she just kind of brings in what she can, and she participates with what she can, even if she can't always afford the second charge move. So it's really cool to see people at that young of age really getting into Pokemon Go PvP, and you know, I mean, if she ever gets to the point where she can grind a whole lot more for the top counters or like some of the second charge moves or some of the better Pokemon, I think she's actually going to be pretty tough. But her lineups are always interesting. Her lineups always leave me guessing. So she's got Forretress and Scizor in her lineup, plus she's got two Vigoroth counters in Venomoth and Venusaur, and she's also got that Snorlax, which I'm not really sure where that fits in to the overall meta, to be honest. I know it's capable of doing some great things in the meta, but I'm just really not sure where it places in the whole like rock, paper, scissors, laser, or whatever you want to call it that this meta kind of is. And then with Raikou, another electric type, something for Noctowl and Lantern to watch out for, definitely, but kind of a tricky team overall. So what am I going to choose to go against this team? We'll see in a second. So I decided to go with a lineup of Vigoroth, Forretress, and Venusaur, seeing as how she doesn't really have the Noctowl. I mean, I know she's got like some bug types, she's got like Forretress and Scizor, which she might end up using, but I thought that it would be a fairly safe pick. Maybe it would be kind of dangerous against Venomoth, but again, like that Ednog, he ran that Venomoth against me. I guess this was a little bit riskier of a pick, just to see kind of what she would bring in as her leads and the other Pokemon in her lineup, to see maybe if she has any favorites. So let's see how this team does. Alright, so the tournament begins for me. I send in the Vigoroth, she sends in the Raikou, which is something I haven't had to face in any of my practice matches as of yet. But I figure this could be a good farmable situation. We're doing a lot of damage with those counters, and we're able to get to a body slam right away. I figure we'll hit her with one immediately to see if she's going to shield or not, and she decides to shield, so we get the first shield on this Raikou. She could have probably switched this out early on, and maybe it would have given her a little bit more of an advantage, but I decide to shield this because, as I know from dealing with Moltres in the Kingdom Cup, like sometimes these legendaries, like people carry the strongest moves on them, and As you can see, we're getting a little bit of lag here. I decided to shield it just out of paranoia, but we go in for the body slam here. We end up getting that, and she blocks it, so we get both of her shields right away, and I decide to be a little bit mean. I switch out, I switch into Venusaur, which is actually really good timing for that switch. I was able to come in on the Thunder and, you know, just take it, and it almost does half my health, which was, you know, so it is quite powerful, but I've got that Razor Leaf. I'm going to be able to get to this Frenzy Plant, and at this point she has no more shields. So another mistake, I guess, if I was going to point out some mistakes she may have been making, is that, you know, maybe it would have been a good idea to switch out of that Raikou, hold on to a couple more of those shields. Again, I'm not like the best battler in the universe or anything, just in case she's watching and, you know, I have a little feedback for her, but she sends in the Fortress against the Venusaur, which is a good pick, and she's tearing me apart, absolutely. But we do manage to get one more, we do manage to get the Sludge Bomb. We're going to see how much this hurts her, and hardly anything at all. That is a hard counter. Now keep in mind, I did change my Venusaur over from Razor Leaf to Vine Whip for this, so if you see me getting charge moves faster, that is why, but she does take me down with the Fortress, and now I've got one shield and 2 Pokemon left. And I send in my own Fortress just because at this point I know I can win the mirror match. So I just decided to go with the Heavy Slam. This is probably going to finish her off. We get those X slashes there on the screen, and we do take her down with that. And she sends in the Venusaur, and oof, she counters me with the Fortress, and I counter her with the Fortress. And this is another situation where it's just like, she's just not going to have anything, you know, to be able to take out that Fortress, and oof. She goes for the Petal Blizzard, which I'm not sure if she actually even had the Frenzy Plant Community Day move, which again, like, that's another reason we need to have the reintroduction of legacy moves into this game so we can keep players like Angel Griffin competitive against some of the tougher players. Like, I mean, if she would have had that Frenzy Plant, you know, it would have gone so much differently for her, possibly. Alright, so we're up one game, and I decide to bring in Vigoroth and my Beedrill just to see how this is going to perform against some of her things like Venomoth and her Venusaur. And I also have the Fortress to bring in as well, thinking that that will be able to do some damage against the Raikou if she decides to bring it in again, and will also hold its own against that Scizor and that other Fortress on her team. So how does this team comp do? We will see. Alright, the battle starts. Vigoroth comes out, and she brings in the Snorlax. This is another really, really good matchup for us, but not for her. I mean, that Snorlax, while being tanky in many of its own aspects, is just not going to be able to do much against that Vigoroth with them counters. I decided to shield the Body Slam because I'm in this position where I can really just farm a whole ton of energy. I decided to throw out one Body Slam, thinking that I'll be able to re-farm that energy and get back up to another potential 2 Body Slams. She decides not to shield it, but I switch out. That was my strategy. I switch out, I switch into the Fortress because I wanted to really save that Vigoroth in case I needed it. But Body Slam comes out from Snorlax, and that's not going to do hardly anything. We're going to take out that Snorlax with fast attacks. She does have the shield advantage on me right now, so she could turn this around if she had the right Pokemon. She sends in Scizor, and this could be tough. I know Scizor is very fast. I know Scizor is faster than Fortress, but Fortress is just so tanky. We do manage to get the first shield, though, with that Heavy Slam. And as you can see, like, Scizor getting to those attacks really fast, but I'm deciding that I'm going to tank it, even if it's the X-Scissor. That's just not that much damage. It just isn't that much damage. And I decide to keep farming until I can get to that Earthquake. I get to that Earthquake really quick. That looked like it could have been an under tap there. I'm not entirely sure, though, but she shields that. So now we have both shields. and she's going to send in something else against me. Do I shield? I decide not to, and I hold on with a little bit of health, which is what I thought I was going to be able to do in that case. But we just let the Fortress go down. We've got the shield advantage, and we're going to send in the B-Drill. We're going to see how this works against the Caesar. And we're going to not take this because I figure we can resist that X-Scissor, and we do. Those poison jabs, while being strong, are going to be partially resisted at least by the Caesar. So again, Caesar very, very fast, getting to something else before I can even get to my first charge move. She sends in another X-Scissor, and I'm basically I'm waiting for the aerial ace. I probably could have threw the X-Scissor, but I wanted to get this, and boy, once again, I could use some practice on that flying type mini game. That one is just brutal for me. And she sends in the Venomoth, takes down my B-Drill, but now I have the Vigoroth in the back. I decide to do the body slam, of course, because she doesn't have any shields. I have one shield, and as you guys know, on Vigoroth, if you've got a 1-0 shield situation, Vigoroth is going to win that pretty much every time. At this point, it's a losing game for her, so GG's go to Angel Griffin. She played much better in this second game. She actually had me on my toes. If she would have played it just a little bit differently, brought in a little bit different Pokemon, she probably could have won that one. And every time I face her, she is getting better and better and better. Alright, so for our second match of the tournament, we're up against Zero White Ren, which is another very young player in the PvP scene. I'm not sure why I keep getting paired up against the youngest people in the tournament, but it seems like it's a pattern that happens with me. I'm not entirely sure why, but as we look at his team comp, he's got quite a solid team comp, actually. He doesn't really have... His only real electric user is that Alolan Graveler, and he's got that Scyther, which could be a very good Vigoroth counter. He's also got a Victory Bell and a Venomoth, so his team is loaded with Vigoroth counters. He's also got that Venusaur, so 4 total from that category. He's got no Noctowl, he's got no Fortress, and he does not have a Wigglytuff, so he's really relying on drawing out certain Pokemon to win. In this case, he's relying on the other person having a lot of Vigoroths and Wigglytuffs and things of that nature, but his team, unfortunately, is really wide open to a lot of things like the flying types like Noctowl. B-Drill could really do very well against him, and Lantern I thought this was almost a for sure pick against this team to run with the Lantern, so we'll see what we take into battle in this first game. And as you can see, that is exactly what I do. I bring in the Vigoroth, I bring in the Lantern, and I bring in the Fortress. Pretty standard lineup for the party that I have. And he actually called it during the match. He actually told me that I called out your Lantern. I knew you were going to bring that. So as you can see, we'll see how he plays into that strategy as the battle continues. Alright, the battle begins. I send in Vigoroth, he sends in Graveler. This is an extremely positive matchup for me. I don't know why I checked my recorder there, but I do. But I decide that I'm just going to hit him with fast attacks, and he wants no part of that, so he gets out of there. He's switch locked into that Scyther now, and I bring in the Fortress right away. He's going to go for, I think it's either it's an X-Scissor. Which does not do a whole lot of damage, as you can see. I'm just taking him down with some fast attacks at this point, building up to that first heavy slam. So I decide the circles actually work pretty well for the whole steel type pattern, but we get that first shield, and he's just trying to go in against us with these charged attacks as fast as he possibly can. We decide to shield it, thinking it was an aerial ace, and it was an aerial ace. Like, I don't know how I called that. I don't know how I knew that he was going to have that. I just knew that that was going to be one of his other attacks. and I decide to shield it, and I take no damage from that. We send back in a heavy slam, so we get one of his shields. I'm not sure if we have both now. I think we might have both of his shields, but we decide not to shield this one. We take the X Scissor, and we're only going to survive long enough to do another couple fast attacks. I bring in my next Pokemon as fast as I can so that his switched clock cannot regenerate, and he's going to use another charge attack before he can go down. I decide, again, I'm not going to shield this, but that X Scissor actually does about a quarter of Lantern's health. That's actually not too bad for such a tanky Pokemon. So he sends in the Victory Bell, and this is where he told me that. He says, I knew you were going to bring in that Lantern. I knew it. I read you. So I ended up missing the first couple electric icons there because he had called that, and I was like, oh yeah, nice. He actually called that strategy, but I'm down to one Pokemon, one shield. It's the Vigoroth, and I get the charged move. I get that Body Slam as soon as I come into battle. I end up hitting him with it, and, you know, even with that Poison-type resistance to fighting, he's not going to be able to survive it, and now all he's got left is the Graveler. And this is a bad, bad situation for him. I'm going to throw out that Body Slam, see how much damage we can do. We get that excellent, and that's not very effective, but at this point, he's not going to win. Again, that 1-0 shield situation with that Vigoroth. I somehow managed to work myself back into that situation, and we won the first game. Alright, so for this next match, I decide that I'm going to counter this guy hard. I'm going to bring in that Noctowl, because at this point I'm realizing, you know, maybe that Noctowl would do me a whole lot better if I decided to bring that, especially since he's got so many Pokemon that are vulnerable to those flying type attacks. I also bring in that Beedrill, so I've got two really tough Venusaur and Victory Bell counters. I'm not sure if he had Venusaur or if he had Victory Bell. A lot of these matches are blending together for me, but I figured that this would be a good lineup against his team. We'll see if we can catch him in a positive matchup with that Beedrill at the beginning, and let's see how we do. Alright, Beedrill comes out, and Venusaur comes out. Once again, we get a good lead, so that he did have both Venusaur and Victory Bell on his team, which is really interesting, but we go for that X Scissor first. I could have built up for an Aerial Ace, but I thought he was going to have the Frenzy Plant Vine Whip, so I wanted to outspeed him, and he does not shield that one. We keep going, and I figured this is going to be the Frenzy Plant. I decide not to shield for this, and we just eat that Frenzy Plant. Barely even a third of my health gets taken down, but he switches out into that Scyther, and that's okay for me. I'm going to give him the, I guess the X Scissor. I thought I was trying to get to the Aerial Ace for that, and I really should have thrown the Aerial Ace. But we get a shield, and he manages to take us down before we can really do much of anything. And that's when we decide to send in the Noctowl. The Noctowl, the secret dark horse of my team that I just didn't pay enough attention to. You guys, why did I do that? Why did I not pay attention to my Noctowl? Oh, so now we send him in, and he's doing the work against this Scyther. And he actually did a good amount of damage with that last charge move, so we're going to shield this one. It's not the Aerial Ace. He does shield bait us with the X Scissor, but we're going to go for the Aerial Ace here. It's either shield or die, and we do well against the flying type minigame. Hallelujah, you know, how about that? And we managed to take him down with just fast attacks at this point. He's out of shields, and Venomoth comes in. I'm not sure why he sent in Venomoth. Maybe he was thinking the confusion damage was going to do him well in this case, and it only missed, and oof, that took off more than 2/3 of his health. That was devastating. So Noctowl is doing the work against him right now, and he has the Venusaur. He has the Venusaur left, and of course we're going to shield this. Of course we're going to shield this. I mean, if for some reason Noctowl doesn't live, then whatever we have left is going to take Venusaur down, and we end up going 2-0 against Zero White Ren, and we have 2 victories so far in this tournament. So GG's go to Zero White Ren, who played a great game with what he had. but just unfortunately sending in way too many Pokemon that are weak to those flying type attacks. Alright, so for the third round, we are up against Gilded Prophet. This is actually the first time. I know you guys can laugh, go ahead, get it out if you want to, but you know, this is the first time I actually have gone up against a challenger rank trainer in a tournament. I mean, this guy is a serious competitor. He manages to rank extremely highly in every single one of the Silpharina Cups that we have. And I was scared to fight this guy. Like, this guy, I knew that he knew what he was doing, and even though I didn't manage to capture good footage of it on the Silpharina, usually where you can see like his team and my team, I didn't get a good screenshot of that for some reason, so I apologize. But just to let you guys know, he had the exact same team that I did. The only difference between his team and my team was that he had an Ivysaur instead of a Venusaur, alright? So he did not have the Frenzy Plant Venusaur, which is something that I really should have considered when I was fighting against this guy. Perhaps it was his one Achilles heel that I could have picked apart and, you know, maybe done a little bit better as a result. But this guy plays me extremely hard, and these are some really close games. He's a tough competitor. I told him after the match that these were the kind of matches that I was hoping for. So why don't we get into what we're choosing for our first match against him? So I decide to play it fairly safe with my team, and I go with the Vigoroth, Lantern, Forretress lineup. Again, this is harkening back to the original strategy that I picked up with Battle Hero, from Battle Hero's videos, where he talks about sending in this lineup, especially if you're up against a mirror match team of 6. So I figured we would probably have some good success if we went with this team, so we'll see if we can play it like we need to play it though. Alright, Vigoroth comes out, and 2 shiny flexes right away facing off against each other, but I do like this matchup. I'm just going to do some work with the counters and build up some body slams. I decided to go for the body slam right away. I don't know if I switch out immediately after delivering this body slam. We will see. No, I decided to stay in, actually. I decided to see if I can just farm some of that energy and just build up some body slams here. But he goes for the heavy slam, and wow, this does way more damage than I thought it would. Holy moly, does it do a lot of damage. So I go for the body slam thinking, well, now he's just about to die. So I figure I better try to burn up the shields, go for as much damage on this Forretress as I possibly can, and he takes out my Vigoroth right away. I should have shielded. I don't know what it is against these tough opponents where I never shield, but it just tends to be something that I do, and I can't be beating myself up over it. I gotta just like try to come back from this. I send in my Forretress, I take the Rock Tomb, and I figure I can just finish him off with quick attacks. So as you can see, it's 2 Pokemon versus, and 2 shields for me, 1 for him, but he sends in his own Vigoroth, probably thinking that's going to be a similarly good matchup for him. We decide to go with the heavy slam. We get the last shield. We're at a 2 shield situation here. So what are we going to do with this? How are we going to play it? Unfortunately, I'm really low on health here, and I'm just wondering. I actually decide not to shield. I decide to see if I can use my Lantern with both shields remaining to finish this match. Can I do this, guys? So we decide that we are going to shield this first body slam coming in from Vigoroth, and I'm just going to try to finish him off with water guns. Of course, he's going to get to another body slam right away, and I figure I am not going to. Oh no, I do shield this one because I don't know what his last Pokemon is, and I just keep firing, but he gets another body slam, and we gotta shield. We should shield it, but we can't, you know, and now we're just going to keep going and going and going until we finish him off, because I'm hoping that this last thing he sends in is a Lantern, and it is! And we have energy that is stored beyond our our Thunderbolt. So can we get enough energy? Can we get enough? Even, yes, we get 2 Thunderbolts, and even Gilded Prophet was surprised at this. He was like, oh my gosh, there's another Thunderbolt. You know, he wasn't planning out on the fact that, you know, I was going to overcharge that much, but all he has to do is get to 1 Thunderbolt at this point, and it's GG's. This is it for me. So, wow, just an incredibly close game. Like, and this is the kind of game that even though I lost, I was still like, yes, that kind of game. I love those games. But Gilded goes 1 up against me, so we'll see how we do in the next match. Alright guys, so for this, I really don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking maybe he would try to run the same team lineup. I figured if he had that Lantern, if he tried to send that Lantern in against me, maybe we could catch it with that Venusaur, and maybe we could counter his Venusaur with our Noctowl. But I figured this would be a fairly good lineup, considering that both of these Pokemon, well, maybe Noctowl has worked more for me than Venusaur, but we'll see how we do against him. Alright, the battle begins. Venusaur comes in and Forretress comes in. This is not good for us. So what are we going to do to this, like, for this? Are we going to just stay in and take it like a champ? We really should have switched out here. We should have switched out immediately. That would have given us a lot better chance to do better in this battle. Of course, he doesn't shield that Frenzy Plant. He knows it's going to be a Frenzy Plant, but now we decide to switch out finally after we have failed the shield bait. He switches into his own Vigoroth, but I've got a little bit of built-up energy, so I'm going to send out some Body Slams right away and see if he shields this, and he's not going to shield it, shockingly enough. So actually, we're ahead of him in HP right now. We're going to send out that next Body Slam. Either he's going to die or he's going to shield it, one of the two. So we get the next shield, and at this point, he's got some energy for his own Body Slams. We're going to have to decide if we want to shield this, and we do, thinking that maybe we can finish him off with the counters. And we do take him out before we can die. We've got 1 Body Slam left. We're going to send it in against his Forretress. He's going to send this back in against me. And he decides not to shield it. But we do manage to get his health down quite considerably. Now we send in... what are we going to send in here? I think we take a little bit of a risk, actually, because I realize that this Pokemon is so low on health. I'm thinking that maybe we can just do a sacrificial thing here and get Venusaur in there to finish him off, maybe with quick attacks, but I should have shielded if I was going to do that. Again, why do I not shield against really good players? What is up with me? So... I decide, am I going to shield this? It's the Heavy Slam. I'm thinking, I don't know if he has the Rock Tomb or the Earthquake, which is why I decided to shield that. But now we're up against the Lantern, and he brought almost an identical team that he did last time. He didn't bring the Vigoroth, but he didn't need to. I mean, he had the counters for my Pokemon, and these Sky attacks, like, even though we'll get the last shield, we just ain't gonna be able to put out enough damage, and, you know, we're just, I suppose the match will end right now, but that's pretty much GG for me, and, you know, even though we'll get to the last Sky attack, I probably just should have let myself go down. You know, the whole gentleman's agreement, we both know we're not gonna win, but good game goes to Gilded Prophet, who ended up taking me out with a 0-2 victory against me, or a 2-0 victory against me, and that is my first loss of the tournament. But we are still at a 2-1 for this tournament, so we're still not doing terrible, you guys. We're actually doing better so far than we ever have in any of our tournaments. But we're gonna go in to the next battle here. And can we do a 3-1? Can we take a 3-1 and have an overall positive winning spread as far as our wins and losses for this Jungle Cup? Alright, so for this last match, we are going up against Shivaya who is also known as Miss Sassy in our community. And the interesting thing about this opponent is that Zero White Ren, who was the guy who I faced earlier in the tournament, is actually the son of Miss Sassy. So I'm fighting her son, and now I'm fighting her in the tournament. So the pressure is really on here. And I know that Miss Sassy is one of the most hardcore, dedicated players in this community when it comes to grinding and finding 100% and all of these other sort of things, and having like maxed out raid teams. So if anybody has the resources to form an amazing team and have an amazing strategy, it's certainly her. And as you can see, she's got the Noctowl, she's got the Beedrill, Venusaur, Forretress, much like my team, but she's got 2 electric types there. She's got that Magneton, which I don't know if it's Legacy, and she has the Alolan Raichu, which is very interesting. The first time I've faced one of those for my Jungle Cups. But what will we choose against her? Well, what we're going to choose against her is the basic lineup. We're not going to bring in the Noctowl because I'm seeing 2 electric types on the team. So again, trying to follow Hero Vange's strategies just a little bit. You know, not bringing in that Noctowl, but bringing in that Lantern and a fairly solid lineup, which has done well for me. So let's see how we do. Alright, the battle begins. I send in the Vigoroth, and here comes the Noctowl. Not great for us. Not really all that great. So, we charge up a little bit. Oh, she switches out immediately. She does not like that matchup for whatever reason. And I make the dumbest mistake of the whole tournament. Look me in the eye and say, like, Cade, that was dumb. Seriously, like, what are you doing? Like, switching in. I'm so flustered, I'm even hitting my recording on the screen. I really meant to switch into Forretress. I was like, I know that I've got her with that Forretress. I know that she's switch locked, but I made the dumbest slip of a finger that I could have ever made. And I was just like, oh, God. I have to play hard now if I want to win this best of 3. So she comes in with the Frenzy Plants. I'm not even sure what's been happening. She's burned 2 of my shields because I know those Frenzy Plants are absolutely devastating. I know she's got the Noctowl in the back. So I've unfortunately had to burn 2 of the shields right away, and even with that, she's going to just destroy me. Now I finally send in the Forretress. She gets her Venusaur out of there. She sends in the Noctowl. And I've got the switch screen up on my screen, and when that happens, I've still never figured out how to get that switch screen to go away. Tell me in the comments how you get that switch screen to go away when you accidentally bring it up, because I never see the little X underneath it. But anyways, so we have the steel type, we have the Heavy Slam. We're going to send that in. She's not going to shield that. She's going to save her last shield, and we're thankfully staying pretty close in terms of our health, but that first bad switch that I made has just been hurting me this entire match. But I do manage to get one more Heavy Slam before we finally go down, and she decides to tank it. And we actually take her out before we die with just a sliver of health. And she sends in her Forretress, and now all we have left is the Vigoroth. We're going to try throwing out some of those body slams. I'm thinking to myself, maybe if you know, her Venusaur wasn't that big on health, she didn't have that much, but she's got that shield advantage. We're going to try to get the next body slam out, and she really doesn't even need to shield this body slam, to be honest, and she doesn't. So she just takes that. At this point, she's just building up for her Earthquake, if she has it, and if she can hit me with the Earthquake, we are done. But the Heavy Slam is going to do plenty of damage. And can we get one more? I mean, she's still, I'm pretty sure she's still got that last shield. She's taken the last 2 body slams, and she decides to take that one too. And she sends in the Venusaur, and so close, you guys. So close. That missed switch was just absolutely punishing to me. Just Oh man, I'm looking at another situation right now in this tournament, you guys, where I'm shook. I've got 2 victories, I've got 1 loss under my belt, and am I gonna go 2-2 again? I really don't want to go 2-2 again. I really want to try to turn this around, maybe try to do a 3-1 for the first time, but we're gonna go into this next game. What do we bring in against her to try and turn this around here? Alright, so we decide we're going to get a little bit tricky. We're going to go in with the Fortress lead and the solid B-team lineup that has worked for us so far. I know I'm not leading with the Vigoroth here, but I feel like this can be an overall good lineup against her team. And at this point, it's not really so much about the lineups, it's just more about me paying attention to what's on my screen. So anyways, can we avoid some serious muck-ups in this battle and, you know, do a lot better? Well, we will see. Alright, so Fortress comes in and Noctowl comes in. This isn't terrible, but it's not really all that favorable either. But we're going to stay in and we're going to see how much damage we can do. We're actually doing quite a bit of damage with Bug Bite. Actually, in terms of fast moves, overpowering this Noctowl, I'm really surprised. But we decide to resist the Sky Attack. That's not the right call. She does like 2/5 of our health with that. And then we decide to send in the Heavy Slam. I know this is going to do a decent amount of damage if she doesn't shield. We bring her down to about halfway, and I decide to switch out. I decide to save and bring in the Vigoroth. Why do I bring in the Vigoroth? You'd probably think, oh, that's a really bad choice. Why would you do that? But I feel like if I can hit her with the body slams and start wearing down some of those shields, she'll have no choice but to either just let it go or burn them. So we go for the first body slam, and she doesn't shield. She lets the Noctowl go down, which is great. It's not great for my Lantern in the back, though, unfortunately, and I'm glad we switched out on that Fortress because we're going to need it. So we send in the Vigoroth, and we hit the body slam. She decides to shield that. So we finally get the first shield. She's likely going to go for a Frenzy Plant here, and I know this is going to hurt. Do we tank it? No, we don't. We don't allow ourselves to tank that Frenzy Plant because I know for a fact that, you know, not shielding some of these Community Day moves has been my downfall in other tournaments. So we go for this next body slam. We get the last shield, which is great. We decide we were gonna try to switch out there, but we couldn't. We couldn't. Or we backed out of it at the last second because. But eventually, we just decided to let our Vigoroth go down. We send in the Fortress against her Venusaur. And we're going to resist that Frenzy Plant right away, and we're just going to tear her apart with these fast moves. We get to the Earthquake before she can get to another Frenzy Plant, and this will finish her off. Just like that. Easy peasy. And then she sends in her own Fortress, alright? So now we have to come in with our Lantern here, and we gotta hope. We gotta hope and hope and hope that she does not get to a Earthquake, or that this is not an Earthquake. Otherwise, this is a loss, and it's a Heavy Slam. Not very effective. That's great for us. That's excellent. So if she's not going for the Earthquake, that tells me she doesn't have it. I mean, this match, you guys, could have gone either way, but in this case, I was just extremely lucky that she didn't have that Earthquake, and I'm just going to tear her apart with these water guns. I'm hoping here that she doesn't have an Earthquake, because if she does, she will be able to kill us with that, but the Heavy Slam just isn't going to do anything against an electric type. And we take the second game against Miss Sassy. GG's. That was very tough. That was the kind of match I like. Alright guys, you know what this means. This is it. This is for all the beans. This one game is going to decide whether I take a 3-1 or a 2-2. So we're on to it. It's showtime. I've always wanted to do this, so just give me the opportunity to do this. Let's get ready to rumble! And after what seems like a shocking amount of lag for us to get into this last game, which is already heightening the suspense immensely. I mean, come on, Niantic. You can do it. My heart rate is probably up to like 140, 150 at this point. Alright, so we finally get the Vigoroth to come in. The Noctowl comes in. This is an okay matchup for us, but I decide I'm just going to farm up, get that first Body Slam, put on that shield pressure. We get the mini game, and we've been nailing these normal type mini games the entire tournament. That's not something we have to do, but we do the switch. We finally get that switch in, and we're going to tank this Sky attack like it's nothing. I mean, I would be surprised if she had the Psychic at this point, but that's not going to do hardly any damage to us. She decides... Oh boy, there's even more lag. She decides she's going to switch out and switch into the Venusaur, which is the right call. I mean, I am switch locked. Can I get a Thunderbolt? Yes, I can get a Thunderbolt before we get to the Frenzy Plant. And we're going to just send this at her. She's going to shield it, so we're going to get the first shield. Even though she is in a very positive matchup, she might not have had to have shielded that, to be honest. But we decide we are going to shield this because that Frenzy Plant is going to absolutely murder us. And can we get to another Thunderbolt before the Frenzy Plant? Of course not. Of course not. You guys all know the answer to that. So we decide that we're not going to survive that much longer. We're going to let Lantern go down. And we come in with the Forretress, and I believe that she is switch locked at this point. So we are just going to be able to farm away energy on her. We're not even going to shield this because, again, this is going to be it's too fast to have been a Sludge Bomb, and Sludge Bomb doesn't do anything anyway, but she's going to switch out her Venusaur into her own Forretress, and it's a good thing we didn't spend any energy because we can go for this Earthquake now. She's either going to have to shield or take massive damage, one of the two, and she takes the massive damage, over half her health. That is why you want that Earthquake for this meta, especially if you're going to be replaying the Jungle Cup this month for the Mirror Cup. But we decide not to shield this Heavy Slam. We're going to resist most of that, and we're going to throw our own Heavy Slam out. She's either going to go down, or we're going to get the last shield. And it looks like she's just going to let it go down, and she's got the Noctowl, which doesn't have much health left. And even though I don't know what happened with her, if there was some lag or something, or if she stopped attacking, but we do manage to get to that Heavy Slam before she can get to any other moves, and we take out the Noctowl too. And now she's got the Venusaur, and we did it! You guys, that's all it took, was one good pick, one good switch, you know, to secure the match, and we end up taking it against Miss Sassy, and we go 3-1. We have our best overall tournament that we have ever had in, at least me, by we I mean me of course, but I had my best tournament that I ever had. We go 3-1, and let's go and check out these final rankings here. So once again, you guys, I had an absolutely great time, and this time I didn't win any raffle prizes. I didn't win an awesome Growlithe plushie or anything like that. This time they had a Slack Off plushie, how appropriate for the Jungle Cup, right? But I did once again make another pillow. I did make a Jungle Cup pillow, as you can see. Which by the way, the reason I make these is just to kind of increase participation in our local tournaments. And this one was won by none other than Winged Red, who was one of the people that actually took me out in the Kingdom Cup. So he's a very good competitor, and he was really, really happy to get the Jungle Cup pillow. And you know, at this point, I've made a Kingdom, a Nightmare, a Rainbow, and a Jungle. And you guys know that a Mirror Cup pillow is coming, for sure. Absolutely. So I will show that to you when I get the chance. But otherwise, I have a lot of plans coming up for as far as what I want to do with the channel and what I want to do with various battles and content. There's a city in my state that is hosting all 8 tournaments, all 8 rule sets in 1 month. In fact, I think they've already had their Rainbow Cup repeat, and they're about to have the Jungle Cup repeat coming up. I don't think I will be able to participate in every one of those tournaments, but it would be really cool to try and do at least a couple throughout the course of the month. And then as far as our own community, we have actually voted to have a Twilight Cup repeat and also a Kingdom Cup repeat. Like, do these guys, like, I tried to talk my whole community out of doing a Kingdom Cup repeat, but apparently they didn't see this last clip. This one looks like it has great HP and defense, perfect as a matter. Whoa. Now, this could be really bizarre because, like, I don't know if you guys know this, but like when it comes to PvP, 0-15-15 isn't always perfect. It isn't always great. What? Did... Oh my god. Holy cow. Do I even need to go any further? It's a number 1. What? Your kid, that was like the last one I caught of the whole day. So does my community have any idea what they have unleashed upon themselves? Are they even aware of what they're up against? Because I'm gonna absolutely be bringing that number 1 Blaziken beast, you know it, and it's going to be really interesting, the fact that, you know, Kingdom Cup was voted in, and it wasn't even something that I necessarily voted for. It was something that, you know, everybody else wanted. So, you know, I personally think Kingdom is a great cup, and I'm going to be trying to cover it a lot. So that's just kind of the plans for my channel, but I wanted to get all of these out here before it got too late in the game, before Jungle Cup was too far behind us. So again, thank you so much to everybody who checked this out. If you have any advice for me, just leave it in the comments. If you've got like strategies where like, oh, you should have done this instead of that, maybe that would have worked, post that down in the comments. Toss a subscription, a like, a comment, anything you guys can do. It really, really helps out the channel. It helps me keep bringing more stuff to you guys. And until the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 tournaments, I have no idea. Until we get to that point, take care, you guys. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.